it's sensitive to the touch. Because the rig that I have for this right here, it's not conventional. Even like where the mic is, I'm gonna try something different here. Not conventional, but sometimes you gotta try something different. Because I always felt like I was doing this, talking to a microphone, or it was getting in my way. Like I was, something in my way down there. So at least I know this, and it's also even just a nice indicator as far as there's a microphone in the area, right? It's one thing I love about production or production spaces. You know what I mean? Matter of getting all the counts of the nooks and critters there in that particular room. You know what I mean? It's either a bug or a bat. Find it. Oh, I haven't seen bats in a minute. I haven't seen bats in a heartbeat. Which reminds me of that one guy, and I'm saying that one guy. He was from a similar place that my family's from, and they have a baseball team out there called the Bats. And he's like, I can't stand the Bats. And the thing is, I didn't know the Bats well enough to understand why someone would have an opinion, on a minor league baseball team. But everyone everyone is different, or everyone understands a sport different, or an organization different, or have a different relationship, right? Kind of like I'm trying to think, do a lot of people even remember the 51s? Now that we have the Aviators, which I haven't been to an Aviators game yet. They need to change that outcome here soon as the ball field starts opening up. Okay. Excuse me. Excuse me. So the next thing we're gonna do, though, like I said, I'm just taking y'all on this adventure with me because it's an adventure, which I'm not sure if people are aware or not, but the part of adventure that's adventuring is the unknown. So starting to realize, like, I can see where the anxiety of adventuring comes to being like a stress for some people, or people I've been friends with in the past. Because as life changes and things like that, you can't be an explorer. Sometimes you got to be a focus and have a forward mentality to have either one of those mentalities, right? You know what I mean? Forward mentalities, which I totally get it. And forward, what I mean by that is a mentality of efficiency, right? A mentality of pride, a mentality of shortest path, right? So I get all those things, but it's one of those things where I'm like, dang, I can't even use the word adventure anymore. Adventure is something, you know, something outside of norm. It's like, wait, if it's for a purpose different than one own, that's when they start having things to say such as it's a distraction. No, it's not a distraction. You just don't know the definition of adventure. Like it's okay. So for this particular purpose, I want to make I want to make a cleaner assumption, right? That it'd be easier to zest whole then cut, zest whole then cut, zest whole then cut, right? Because then once they're zested, we have the strainer. First of all, let's see what kind of machine this works with. Like I was getting deeper into research, and no one called. I mean, some people called it a zester, some people called it a no one called it a grater. That's where everyone could have their you know internet fight over what things are called, which I appreciate. So I ended up going down this slight rabbit hole of microplane. Right, coming to realize that a microplane is a brand name, kind of like Sawzall or Jacuzzi. Right, what I just described was a reciprocating saw or a sauna tub or a hot tub, because Whirlpool and Jacuzzi are brand names of a hot tub, and Sawzall is a brand name of a reciprocating saw. So a a microplaner, but I think a microplaner is a microplaner. Like I don't think I have full confirmation that microplaner is not a both a description of the tool and description of it, but I ended up having another description called a rasp or a RASP rasp, which made more sense because I was like, there's no way. Like I said, I've seen this same kind of tool for people on their doggone feet. So like I'm pretty sure they're not using a doggone lemon zester on their crusty ends, and think it's kosher of it. But this is really fine. Now this one was a whim. I thought I could probably find something bigger, but this was gonna be the part that I knew was gonna take a second. It's the same as it's the same as sanding. But the one thing I do like about this process is based on how I'm going to go about this recipe, or when I say recipe, I mean not necessarily the genius or something. I'm talking about like the steps that I have or the process that I have to do this. This takes a sitting period of 18 to 24 hours with the sugar. So, there we go. So, and that's the one thing too, the levels of technique, because I was getting afraid, not afraid, but I was feeling some type of way with my finger. It kept slipping. That's one thing I'm trying to do too is find out what kind of tools one would need to maintain. And because a lemon is pretty soft, so I wouldn't expect it to get as much wear and tear. I would probably be more concerned with the wear and tear and the quality of the tool after a matter of some juices. You know what I mean? Because I would think that citrus or this, I guess acid. I guess it is acid. It's a matter of acid and how much skin am I willing to leave on, or how much of that coating am I willing to leave on. But we gotta remember that though, kind of like corn on the cob as I'm sitting here doing it. Because sometimes the other thing too, like when you start looking at other people do stuff, they're able to do stuff with the tools that they have. It's just what's the end result, right? And that's kind of the end result that I want. And a part of me, yeah, that's like as soon as I can see the dimples, right? The dimples of this thing, I can finally see. So I I will call that done, and we will. I'm trying to figure out how do I want to process it in and out, because sometimes you need ready product here, um, in the process of it all. But being able to kind of see and count it out. But if we use what we learned with the first one, right? First pancake, first pancake club. We meet every third Tuesday. Bring pancakes, because you are no friend of mine, and I'm joking on that because friends don't let friends eat pancakes. Waffle House, as far as like the same as the Roundhouse and Waffle House for the win. That's one thing I would love to see: a Waffle House and a IHOP right across the street from one another. Let the lines tell you, you know, let the lines tell you what goes down in there. Okay, so we're making some good shavings, but I can tell you right now, this one right here would definitely be a a shoe tire, right? Because if you're not paying attention, you're gonna end up tripping. You know what I mean? As far as how to get this done, and then even looking at, like I said, the possibility. Because this particular tool even has a lip for this bowl. I'm just happen to be happy this bowl is pretty standard. I got a mat that tells me it measures at 20 to 5 or 20 to 4, so 16 inch. That's about right, or maybe those aren't inches, which is one of those things I'm like, oh, I gotta make sure you look at the scale of things. People are like, oh, what number to what number? What do those numbers mean? Like, I thought you said 6. Yeah, man, 6 feet. 6 feet. Yeah, then that's how stuff ends up. Being a crisis. So I think it's fair. Nope. Let's do it. Like I said, maybe I will say the the technique or the things that I'm recognizing in this process is the pressure. The pressure is real in what is needing to be done to get this done. But having a familiarity, I actually got a name for it because, like I said, I kind of got the ninth degree of questioning. And after a certain point of questioning, you question your sanity, and I say this more so as the defense mechanism of sanity, which is the catch 22 of it, right? To think that the question of your sanity will have you wonder your sanity to be sane and questioning your sanity. But I'm saying, but these are the devices of what's the word I'm looking for? These are the devices of shutting down, right? Shutting someone down, which in some regards it's a matter of attitude. For other regards, it's a matter of strategy. The tasking is figuring out which one's which, right? So I like how that feels. Plump, I'm saying plump, but not without the skins of it. Because what we don't want is we don't want this. Like I said, we just don't want that middle rind in comparison to that. You want that rind to be off of there, and this the zest from it, like I said, is going to sit in a sugar solution. I'll get the boil in that sugar here soon. Here soon. But I think what I want to do is I want to make sure that that sugar really is out, out of the solution or out of the water, or dissolved. That's the word I'm looking for. I really want to make sure that sugar is dissolved and ready to throw over ice. And that's the other thing too. I got to get the ice. So that might be a tomorrow thing. Actually, that might be perfect for the tomorrow thing because then I can actually take on the task of getting some different water and seeing what works along the way. Man, oh man, where was I ended up myself though during episode one? Not episode one, but part one. In this, I ended up going back and looking at some of the streaming platforms and just watching some old, not necessarily old, but some 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 shows that were able to make it right. And I'm saying that as far as with the way that comedy and culture, and what's accepted as funny, provocative, or entertaining, on the level of television or streaming stuff like that. What they were able to get away with. So I'm currently rewatching Drawn Together, and I will say I forgot how raunchy Drawn Together was, but also how fitting of a formula it follows. Okay, that's how we're gonna do that. So we're gonna do. Hold on, let me. I'm doing two things at once, or I'm thinking I'm doing two things at once, but I was able to get a feeling for that. So we're gonna probably do it in quarter sweeps, right? You sweep one side, you sweep the other, and you kind of just let the other stuff go. Because at a certain point, you're wasting more time for nothing of a difference in peeling, especially if the process is going to bound the change. Right now the proof, or the proof, or right now the pudding of what we're trying to do is get this done in a timely manner, right? Get it done in a timely manner and produce something of a process that can be replicated in a consistency that allows it to be productive, right? 'Cause that's all productivity is, right? Is how consistent something is or is not. And like I said, it kind of goes back to a matter of um, KPIs and metric, right? Metric performance or metric based performance. And from these things, right, I'm able to kind of replicate and build modeling that can really be translated into any domain. So that's where I was kind of going with this as I'm sitting here realizing. So while I was getting caught up, there we go. While I was getting caught up on Drawn Together, I went and visited the U.S. Uh, the Bureau of Labor Statistics, right? And so the Bureau of Labor Statistics, or the BLS.gov, is a handy little place where you start seeing the scope and trendings of jobs. And those scopes and trendings of jobs kind of give you the rough estimate, right, of what people are telling on their taxes. And what I mean by that is, when they ask, what your occupation is at the very bottom, they enter it, or it gets filed in there, and then it matches up with your employer with the jobs and this, that, and the other. And so it kind of gives you a radar, right? It gives you a radar of what the um, employment looks like, but also what the job market is and what the skills demands are, right? And so I got a good little kick of the two fortune cookies that came out, or the two, what's the word I'm looking for? Not career day, but aptitude test or aptitude search. Not necessarily aptitude test because there's no test on there, but I'm sure there probably is though. I'm sure there probably is, but based on the criteria that they allow you to search or query under, I wouldn't necessarily call it a test that a lot of people understand. Um, if they were already kind of in a jam, I'm talking, if they were in a jam of not knowing this particular tool is not yet not yet there, but it can get there. Yeah, no, this is a piece of touch and feel and touch. Got to get close enough to see, but I think we're gonna try to see if we can settle on, like I said, doing it in quarters and having a little bit more pressure, because this thing can get dangerous quickly. But that's why it reminded me of a reciprocating saw. This is a reciprocating motion, but with that in mind, a reciprocating motion on a spheric is spheric a word that I'm using properly on a spheric um on a spheric spheric surface, soft surface, malleable surface, whatever the case may be. As you can kind of tell, like I said, I started to get back into a routine um of reading, right? Reading, writing, and presenting. And I'm saying that to say, going back to school or being back in classes, not necessarily going back to school, but being back in classes and having a focal point to exercise some of the things you learn. Because that's, like I said, it's a matter of trying to think of like, well, why would I need to know that? Why would I need to know the Pythagorean theorem? Uh, you know, maybe you don't need to know, right? But maybe it would have saved some time and effort and trouble in a measurement, right? As far as us just kind of already having that knowledge or being able to express that somewhere. Like I wrote down earlier today that I said, thank God that English teachers or many English teachers or at least my English teachers and enough English teachers and enough people get exposed, teacher or not, that enough people get exposed to Shakespeare, because there are some things that just only can be explained in a Shakespearean experience to me, for me, or by making it a Shakespearean experience that it gets is understood by Shakespeareans. You know what I mean? Which is the the funny part to it, or the humorous part that I find in it, because it kind of defeats the purpose, right, of being a universal language, but one in which is understood. But guess what? It's all good. I'm trying to think. What was I thinking when I was like, oh man, see that means all these different words. What people call things, or knowing what things are called. That's why I just kind of laugh when it comes to people being able to flex their little muscles. I think that's what a lot of people forget. You know, the workings of all these different things and places. And I say people, and I'm talking about my people. And sometimes when I say people, I mean the committee. And when I say the committee, I mean the little people in my mind that join the hamster, that come across my two shoulders and make a decision. Me, myself, and I, right? The committee of that, which is just myself. Which, like I said, when it comes to having tried to explain that in a lot of regards or a lot of people, it's kind of humorous to me. Or I get a little bit of a chuckle because you know that's the crew. Like like what are you talking about? And and if I got a roster, I'm telling you, if I got a roster and you own it, you will know it because you will know the team. The team will recognize you, and you will recognize the team because you will be on it. You will be on it. But right now, it's just a matter of decision making. Like I said, it's getting getting some good, getting some good. What's the word I'm looking for? Grinding out. You know what I mean? As far as being able to think through some things with that reciprocating motion. But that's one thing I will say: being able to inconsistently do something in a way that's safe and going. And I say safe and going because that's where I got with this as far as first looking at the safety, right? Whenever I try new ventures, especially ones in which I will say you start getting into deeper waters, and cooking is one of them, right? Sharp things, things on fire, blunt things. They're all in the kitchen. Like the kitchen is a very unsafe place. The grill is a very unsafe place. Or it's one that has is one that you have to be cognizant of. Yeah, see, I don't think I'm gonna share. I'm not share, but I don't think I'm gonna shave these things all the way down. I think I'm just gonna get them down to their pigeon fuzz, right? But I think pigeons are white on feather when they're born. And I'm saying that to say that's what it kind of reminded me of is these little they kind of look like eggs or they lemons. They're still lemons, but they're yellow tinted. And am I okay with much of the rind coming out? Like I said, and when I start seeing the dimples on these things, I think that's fair. But it's just a matter of the consistency that make it kind of what's the word I'm looking for? A dream of quality. I don't know. Everyone's different. I'm different, and it's the thing that I celebrate. I really do hope that music doesn't get caught up in the background of this because that kind of sucks for it, right? Like I don't only write the music. And it's like, well, there's only so much elevator music that I'm willing to listen to before it doesn't make sense. To listen to elevator music. Ding. Next level. As far as speaking of Sierra and level up. Excuse me. Like I said, we're here for. Hold on, let me see if I can. Yeah, I'm talking about the music. At least I can hear it. I see. I don't need to hear everything I'm listening to in the music side. Which would be kind of cool. Like I said, that's kind of what makes a radio DJ their own interest, which are disc jockey. They writing the song with you. You know what I mean? And they're the one leading the way. Huh? That jockey out of Louisville. That's exactly what he is. I'm talking about a classmate of mine who's out there doing some great things. I saw one post with hot air balloons. That was pretty cool. I think Thunder over Louisville is happening right now, and that's the other thing too. Uh, as far as the purpose and the goal and the outcome of all of it, right? Sometimes is getting people together not a good enough reason. You know what I mean? Or is being there, refreshingly being there, is refreshingly being there such a bad outcome? And and if it is for you, then that's more telling, right? That's more telling of your values than it is of my vision. Like I said, I've recently, the bouts of things that make you kind of go, hmm. I had to tell someone the other day. I said I do go to the library. I do find myself, looking at the ducks, or going to the park. And even though, and like I said, now that the season's changing, I think that's the fun part that is coming about, being able to go outside and look at a couple more waterfowl. Cause that's the meme I ended up that's the meme I ended up releasing. I released some more photos and different things. But like I said, I'm getting a refresh, or I'm taking the time with these lemons right here, because for me, it's metaphoric in its own way. But guess what? To me, if that's an appropriate way to wait, right? If it's a more appropriate way to wait than be stooled out, then so be it, right? It was just a matter of getting it done, and being about it. Like I said, I've just been surrounded, and I've surrounded myself where I've finally been able to eradicate distractions. A matter of distractions that just took enough of my time. I've placed enough time. You know what I mean? Comes a point where you place enough time in something after a long while without any change, or just a matter of changing how you do this or do that, and it not be a game, right? Like it not be a game that the outcomes are um, irreparable, or the outcomes affect fabric, right? It doesn't affect necessarily an ego, or anything, but it affects fabric because it was a mighty decision, right? Of time, effort, resources, and firepower. I'll take this. Yeah, no, you can't. You know what I mean? Like, as in it was life, like it was taking too much lifetime. You know what I mean? Like too much lifetime, in the form of game time can start having you look out of time. So I was just kind of like, and then like I said, not to say in a crisis mode, but it was just one of those, huh? Here I thought you could play Civilization forever, and fact of the matter is you can. You totally can, but it doesn't really get you anywhere when the civilizations are remaining the same. You know what I mean? Like if you're not gonna go out and actually change the civilizations and the storylines with your actions, right? And like I said, I'm not trying to say like go out and rule the world, though. Like of course that's what we're doing every night, Pinky, right? But at this certain rate, can't you just enjoy the happiness of having a box ton of lemons? Like, can you just do that? Is like why is that so hard? You know what I mean? If life really, you know what I mean, not necessarily like I was trying to think of something that's, but if life really, you know, pillow fight, or took you to the, and I say pillow fight, took a pillow to the face of things. That's as PG as I can make that, because I can definitely see the run, turn, and burn of someone getting kicked down, man. It's rough. Let me just put it like that. It's rough. So if the running joke, right, is okay, well then this box of lemons showed up, right, and then this showed up, and then this showed up. Like it's a matter of, like I said, the matter of decision making, but then eventually it just comes down to being a flow. And for me, right now, it's not too bad a flow. Let me see what song it is here. Oh, it's one of these recent songs. That's the one thing I will say. With the changing of seasons, it is time to start. Like I haven't been. I probably need to get back on the radio circuit. Speaking of that DJ, I need to get back on the radio circuit, or get back into the radio scene. And I say radio scene as far as like hearing what the season is of music. Cause I heard some recent I heard some recent diss tracks that made me kind of go, whoa, whoa. That is definitely a different. That is a different. That's a different vibe. That's a different sound. But I will say it's so different from what I remember, right? And I'm saying this about, and if you know a diss track or whatever, because that means they got the that means they got the they got the algorithms in their favor right now for you to know this music in time for the summertime. But yeah, I was like, dang. I was like, that's kind of on spot nose. And I'm saying that as far as like, oh, this is what's going down right now. But it's all a part of it, right? When I say part of it, I mean industry. When I say industry, I'm talking about the complex nature of getting something from a source or a raw material or an experience, right, to being something consumable. And in that case, it's beef, right? What do you say? I'm a beef farmer, and I'm saying that as far as they people rap beef. Like, and the thing is, I don't think like if I was their auditor, if I was their auditor and they came in and they were like, well, I'm a beef producer. I'm like, wait, what kind of beef? Like, are you on a farm? And they're like, no, dog. Like, I start stuff with other people, then we rap about it, we grill it up, we serve it to the people, and then that's it. We done with that beef. We cooked it and we moved on, right? Like, and the thing is, depending on the vernacular, depending on the vernacular and the state and the categorization, and that's what I'm saying. Those are the kind of things that, like, as a person on the other side of trying, and when I say trying, because that's one thing, now that's the one thing that I like. I love about analysis, but I'm trying to just move away from analysis or take some rest, right? Take a rest from analysis and get into action, right? To think, because it's trying to place it's trying to capture and place something in a box. It's trying to put, I'm trying to think what's the word I'm looking for. Because you can, of course, I'll say put Jello in a box, but that's where Jello goes. Yo, come on, hello. But it's like, it's it's like trying to put an octopus in a jar, right? The octopus is keen and smart enough to get out of a jar, but that jar is what's going to allow the transport, right? And I'm saying the transport of like bigger, better, or like rescue or whatever. But it's just a matter of trying to do that for analysis. And it has all these arms. And I'm saying that as far as like all these working arms that want out of this jar and yada yada yada. So not to go deep, 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 to find that octopus in this metaphor, but yeah, it's a matter of like I said, celebration to sit and actually, actualize into something, because it's always funny, you have people, at least in my experience, this current experience or past experience or growing experience, however you want to shape that, grind that lemon, right, however you want that to be, it would always be this, okay, so we're planning to do this, right, and they're like, yo, yeah, we'll do that. And I'm like, okay, cool, cool. And then I make arrangements and plans, but the thing is, those arrangements and plans fall through in what my expectations were. And like I said, for me, sometimes it's a matter of having decent expectations. It's okay to have expectations, but I think expectations and standards go along with the idea of self-respect. To know, like, hey, that's malarkey, right? Like, you promised me a circus, and all I see is two chihuahuas and a tutu and a cat that goes wolf. Like, that's not a circus. Which I was laughing the other day because I had to look up. I had to look up the historical context or the origin of firefighters saving a cat from a tree, because I'm like, that's just too big of a trope, and that's what it ended up being. It ended up being a television trope. I don't think it. I think my search ended in it doesn't matter, right? Or that it is not really, it's not really contextual to a life scenario more than uh service to the people to do something for a cat up the tree. Oh no, that's what it was. It was a TV trope of they, that the citizen at hand just wanted the attention of the firefighters more so than the cat stuck in the tree. Because I was like, big cats sit in trees all the time. So I would be like, for me, I was like, yo, if I was a cat in a tree, I'm not stuck. I'm hunting. Like what are you talking about? And granted, I'd probably be that house cat that saw Lion King once in a while. I was like, yo, that's my cousin, but not really. I'm just kind of laughing at the idea of your tabby being of the same temperament, right, as a lion, or being the same temperament as a panther. Like a part of me feels like, yeah, all these things have the same temperament, and it's like, I don't think we're looking at the same cat, buddy. When I say that this cat is stuck up the tree, sir, I mean on Sigfrid and Roy's ranch, stuck up in it. Like, that's the kind of cat we're talking about. Oh, you mean a cat? Yes, a very big cat is stuck in this tree. And it will not come down, and I'm not going up. Oh, well, you don't want the fire department. You want animal control, which I need to look at that. I've seen that series pass my time feed, or I've seen that series pass my I've seen that series pass as one of my recommendations, or one of the commercials. Which is one thing. Like I said, it might be high time to refresh with the new seasons coming about. It might be time to refresh the algorithms, and what I mean by that is, go back and look at some of your recap, and delete things you don't kind of want to see anymore, or delete things that you think played out your attention, or delete things that are taking up too much of your distraction. Whatever it is, or if you really grind out. I saw a meme the other day that had a good reminder. Take the time to unsubscribe from goofy emails. Uh, whatchamacallit. Take the time to review and update your technology, because this is the time now before the start of July. By the start of July, all of your tech people at work are going to be caught up in y'all. This July, everybody's going to be caught up in the next shiny thing that won't have you with tech support until about October. And I'm saying that as far as I didn't look. You know what the funny thing is? I haven't looked to see. I haven't been to CES, and I haven't gone or checked out the latest and greatest at CES. And I'm glad a professor back then gave it to me in a way that made me realize that what I was feeling was really truly okay. There does come a point that if you go to the event every year, it's not necessarily to see the rehash, right? But the technology, the speed, and worthy nature of it is not something necessarily to conference about every year. But given, like I said, the nature of bringing people together is phenomenal. So I never shun having one every year, but I will say, like, going every year just has me at a, like, there's only so many updates you can get without either a presenting yourself, right, which is kind of where I'm at for two titles in particular of conferencing. And trying to think, where was that tangent running off from? Just like I said, getting your algorithms up to date. I have just been, like I said, trying to focus on doing this, and it's always funny. It's always funny. The real ones will let you know. Well, they will let you know, and they will say no. And I'm saying no as in the knowledge of. Just know that's not my cup of tea. Just know I don't want to. Just know I won't be able to make it. Just know you'll see me there with bells on. Just know they put you in the knowledge, right? They put you in a state of knowledge, because having you in a state of stupid is not good for someone on your team. You know what I mean? And if you're on their team, they want you in the know, and if you're having them on your team, you want them in the know. Being in the know, I'm not saying you gotta be down into the middle of the details, right? Like being in the know and being in the details is two different things. And so if it's need to know and you're not in the know, then then you're not on the team. And that, like I said, that's fine. That's a very good delineator and knowledge point to recognize that it's okay, it's over. You know what I mean? I'm saying, like, it's not over, but there'll come another point. But see, and that's me needing to know, like, nah, it's cool, because by the time and speed, the knowledge, and talk about the technology. Part of the reason why the technology is having a spurt, right, is because the nature of knowing is nothing new. Okay, and I reposted that exact quote. If even to just self, nothing new. Knowledge being a resource in sense and understanding, so in dollars and relationships, because I think that's what relationships are at a certain point, is understandings. And with those understandings, right, growing a network that reflects that understanding, right, that reflects those relationships of knowledge. And I do mean that on a neural network, or on a network basis. I don't mean that necessarily in human sake, but even in computers, right? In computing, and that's what I'm saying. The nature of relationships is changing in computing. Is basically what I'm trying to go on about and go in about. Which is, like I said, one reason why we're having our fun old time in Freedom Camp making lemonade, because that's what's been dropped off at the door, right? It is kind of a interesting take to think, right? To think, someone, like, okay, well, who do you call if 2 boxes of lemons just show up at your door? What do you do with them? Who do like, and I'm saying that as far as you figure out what you're gonna do. And so I took my inspiration from Bubba Gump by way of Forrest Gump to say there's a lot of things that lemons can do, and we're gonna start with lemonade, right? We're gonna start with lemonade because tequila has gone up in price, which has reminded me as I'm sitting here thinking about networking in a conference of people, because I do miss conferences, or professional conferences. And this summer I look forward to being at a few in California, and I might pick up one. I might pick up one more. We'll see. We will see. That's where I stand with that one. But this one, um, what was what was I thinking about? Doggone, it was. I can't even remember now. As far as I'll have to come back to it. Um, I can't remember, because it was. I mean, I'm saying that as far as I remember the feeling, because it was a good feeling. Like I said, to be around like-minded professionals in a space. Like I said, in a industrial space. Ah, I cannot recall where that particular train was going to go. But you know what? If it stays on schedule, it'll meet me at the next station. Man, oh man, it's not too bad of a progress. We're getting a. I'm gonna get one. I'm gonna find out how much one unpacked bowl of this will be, and then we're gonna look up some other, because this is kind of in its own tiring thing. And even though it's something different, it exercises different muscles. That's the one thing when it comes to work, and what people describe as real work or not real work. Um, it's a thing. Doggone, what was I rambling on about? That's the best part. Oh, that's what I was thinking about, because that was the memory. Okay, I got it back. See, that train stayed on schedule. So like I said, going to a conference in Cali, they had I saw on the way to that particular event, I saw a billboard for Pantalones tequila, and I was thinking to myself, now that's an interesting, you know what I mean, as far as for a tequila, because um, I'm trying to think. There's, everyone has different feelings for the spirit that they drink, and I'm saying that whatever spirit that may be, bourbon, whiskeys, tequilas, gins, vodkas, rums. I'm trying to think of what other shelf, but uh, where I'm getting at this, where I'm coming from this, right, is in the spirit of fun and different things. Like I said, Pantalones had me come to think, it's the going up in price of things is not always necessarily like I said, sometimes it's a matter of season, and we just don't readjust to the season. And I think that's where I think some of the issues come about. um but I will say I did see that statement being false, actually, in the last breath. I saw that Nevada Energy, I think they are not necessarily doing rebates, because, like I said, sometimes what you call things in regards to what it is in a transaction, what you call it is very important, from an accounting standpoint. But I don't think it's rebates. I just think the rate's lower, and so, like I said, being able to have a good read on rates just kind of has me intrigued to think that tequila has gone up. I'm trying to think, what was something else that has gone up in a way that it's it comes as part of an index. Because the one thing I have in mind too, as far as looking at some of the materials that we got going on here, is I think it's called agave, agave, agava. Sound like agrava, like Aladdin, which goes back to that cat. He's stuck. He's stuck in the tree. Sir, we do not provide that service of cats stuck in a tree, or getting cats stuck from a tree. Oh, I will say, the motion of reciprocating will have you moving back or forth, back and forth, depending on the amount of force and motion. Because, like I said, sometimes doing things by hand is a matter of understanding it is what you are doing. Because then when you take this process and, like I said, industrialize, all industries have their their replication pattern. Every single one. And even the worst of the worst have their own replication pattern. And for me, like I said, I just started recognizing the replication patterns of the company that I was starting to keep. They were a couple of ducks at the park that waddled a little weird. So then I had to ask myself if they were ducks. And then I got a little closer. It's a pond. It's a big pond. You never know. You might have pond reflect that make your sight, just a little off. Check your prescription. Make sure you see in 2020. Got a little closer. I realized that they were not, in fact, ducks. Because when I tried to talk to them, they didn't go quack. Right? They didn't quack back. And I was like, wait a minute. Wait a minute. You made a sound, but I'm realizing now it wasn't quack, right? It wasn't a quack sound you made. So you walking funny, you talking funny. Hmm. So if it don't walk like a duck and it doesn't talk like a duck, maybe we should get away from this duck. You know what I mean? Like, or maybe we should get away from this not duck. And like I said, and recognize these industrial patterns, these social patterns, these human patterns. It's just such a fascinating thing. A fascinating thing. Yeah, but this right here, I know one thing. The smell of citrus. Like I said, I'll definitely have to look up some of the different benefits. Each part of the lemon has. I haven't gone into deep research. Like I said, I've only gone into enough research or a decent enough research to squeeze the trigger on these lemons. I was like, just be laughing. People, it, it's funny. It's funny. I tell people the truth. Like, what you doing? Squeezing lemons. Oh, you so funny. I said, well, what part of squeezing lemons was the funny part to you? And then I'm like, and then sometimes I just skip over it, right? Which I'm not giving up, but I've recognized as I go on this journey, I've recognized, telling someone, what you up to? Nothing. That is not a response, because they really think that nothing means that is space for them to fill, or they think that you doing nothing is you not having nothing to do. I'm like, no, 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 no. I I I tend to always, and I say, and I because, no one always and no one nevers. Only God is always. Only God is never. I'm saying that people tend, right? The people that I've been around. That's what I'm saying. It changes seasons. This fruit got my hands excited with what you can hold with your two hands and your best smile. Like I said, we're gonna find out some of the things we got going on here. I am kind of curious now on the molecular. Here we go. That tie of tongue. The molecular structure difference of, or what species difference, or how close is the lime to the lemon, and how close is the orange to the lime, kind of deal, and grapefruit. How close are they in in family? Because I think that's where a lot of the definitions, like I said, we had to go back to analyzing human patterns and being able to look to sources that allow us to kind of model human patterns or recognize human patterns or get a sense that human patterns exist, right? Because sometimes if you don't have data to say that something exists, a lot of people tend to make that the case, right? If you don't have the facts and data, well, not the facts, right? People tend to think that you can. People make up facts every day, and it's one of those nuisance of human nature. Of that being the case, not the fact, but the case. But at least having that pattern, it's like for whatever reason, if Farmer Brown came to the town square meeting and said, "Look, y'all, I'm telling you, I went outside this morning, and when I came out to the barn to feed my head a hog, I came out and they were all gone." And they'll go, "All gone? Well, like, what do you mean all gone? All gone, but right there." And it's like, all gone, but right there. All gone, but right there. And they be like, "Now, Farmer John, if you don't get to the point because you're running out of breath to tell us this story," and he gonna look at them and say, "Pigs flying, right? Come out to that farm, all them pigs done grew wings and started flying, right?" And I'm telling you right now, what do you think people would do? What do you think the people did? Now I can tell you right now, I can tell you for sure right now, here square in your face, that the first thing one person did was shoot one down. That's human nature. That's human nature. That's not living nature. That's human nature, right? That's not mankind, right? Because mankind or humankind, right? That's not humankind. That is completely the that, and that's just somebody, because someone's gonna look at that pig and go, "Ooh, they got, look, the pig got wings. We getting piglet wings tonight. Like I want to eat them. Like that's the first thing they think, right? They look at that resource and that phenomenon as food. They're not looking at it as that lemon got the best of me. I was gonna try to get the last skin of him, and I said, let him go, let him go. He done gave enough skin for you. When they give enough skin for you, let him go before you start taking your skin, because we're still good on 0 days without injury. But up and down. I'm telling you, came out there, and them pigs were flying. What you gonna do? What you gonna do? What you gonna do when they flying? It was true. It was true. We're not in Kansas anymore, Toto. No, you are not. You are not in Kansas anymore, baby. You have got to recognize. If you do not recognize that you are in the land of Oz, and I'm saying land of Oz because of the land of Oz come all the oohs, and all the oohs come all the and all the come all the yay, and all the yays come all the ooh. You know what I mean? Like all in the land of Oz, in the land of Oz, right? The land of Oz. I mean, and that's when start putting on the ounces, right? Putting on the ounces and putting on the pounds. Which I never understood that either, as far as pounds and ounces. Pounds and ounces. Things in pounds, because this right here was how many pounds? I was actually able to get I was happy that they follow a form fitting standard, which for me I'm sure, right? I'm sure there's a committee that is, saying like you're welcome as far as designing things um to fit kosherly, because this box actually did fit in my fridge in a way that doesn't take up so much real estate, of being a nuisance, right? And I'm just saying that as far as the spacing goes. Where were we going? Where were we going down this rabbit hole? I let that rabbit go and see what happens. See what happens when you chase two rabbits. You get neither, and that's okay. You got to go on the hunt, right? The hunt, the hunt, the hunt. Because sometimes it's not even rabbit that you're hunting. You know what I mean? Which kind of goes back to the pig, right? I'm sure, quite frankly, a pig would probably fly all the way away. Because of course, if you have flying pigs, you have flying boars. And man, oh man, if you have flying boars, you get flying chores. And if it's not a flying boar and it's not a flying chore, you can go ahead and you can take the blue on that, Charlie. Cause I'm telling you, you start looking at people, dude. Make it into priority of thinking you have nothing to do. And it's like, how did you think you met me? You met me doing something, right? I was like, oh, I didn't think you did anything, and I was like, ah ha ha. I didn't think you did anything, but shenanigan, right? Man, I am the first person to love a good rumble, right? Not shenanigan, shenanigan. That just reminds me of South Park. Shenanigan, Officer Bar, baby. I call shenanigan, which is just to say, the scam. Like this carny better give me my stuffed animal. But no, I stay busy. And I mean, stay busy, but productive busy, not exclusively busy or exclusively busy. But yeah, no, it's a matter of time, right? Now this one's a pre-recording because, like I said, I'm doing more work with my camera rigging and my sound checking, and kind of a story on and on. And it's not too bad. I don't think it's gonna be too bad. It's something to definitely look at. Like I said, a running progress of looking back on a video and being like, oh, okay, it went from this status to that status, right? It's something in motion. Because sometimes the best times to think about things are when they're in a motion, and this motion right here is it's taking the cake. I can tell you right now. which, like I said, I took a Bubba Gump by via Forrest Gump declaration to this 2 boxes of lemon that decided to show up at my door. Which, like I said, on another rendition or another Life with Lemons, there's a there's a piece of art out there. I think can't remember the artist's name to save my life, but the little guy is just, or a little character. Little character is overwhelmed by a whole shoot of lemons, which, like I said, in something in abundance, just something in abundance for me, it does trigger something in me that may or may not be um the best outcome of response. You know what I mean, depending on what it is. Like that was kind of close to going to a certain store today, as far as like a mega local, or not mega local, but mega what's the word I'm looking for? Mega specialty store. We're gonna switch hands, and it's about the motion too. I'm getting ambidextrous real quick, especially when stuff start hurting or stuff start clawing through. And you're like, oh wait, I got two of you. Come here, you. I got another hand. But I will say this particular tool and this grip, like I said, we gotta stop getting distracted by specialty stores. 'Cause that's where it'll send you. Like I said, in abundance. Because then you start putting stuff in a mechanization, right? Like I love mechanizing stuff, and I love building, like I said, industrial. And when I say complexes, I don't mean complexes in the negative connotation way that it's come to be, right, on a media or a historical or what's the word, dystopia fashion, but I mean like the complexities of a system. So like I said, we gotta stay out of specialty stores, and I'm it all connects. I promise. They just kind of go in different directions in the roundabout, or they go in a roundabout way, right? This is not a four-way stop. It's a roundabout. Take your time. We will get to the turn. Just stick with me. We will get around to it. you know. But I can tell that that direction is not gonna work very well for me, because that motion, right? And it might just be a matter of break or get a break. But those are the things that I look at, and look upon when you start talking about things. And like I said, this is not even the scale. It's not the scale to think that it's going to be a problem. But like I said, as far as the nature of what you're doing comes about a nature that becomes a pattern, right? Like this right here, that's a pattern of okay, so that's what happens when you do that, right? That's what happens when you do this. And I know it comes about in a very, well, yeah, and duh, and it's obvious, and it's like, well, that's my job, right? When you start mechanizing things, or you start trying to break things down, or you start coming into a path that it needs to be done to scale, right? And what fairness and expectation can you have at that scale? Because that's the one thing I said earlier. I said, Gen Z is really good at canceling folks. However, I will say, I'll call it a group effort to say that expectations, then, right, with behaviors, with those behaviors in mind, or with those behaviors popularized, then comes, a popularization of opposing methods. And I'm not saying opposing as in like completely against, but methods of the other pole, right, which is expectations. If it is expectations that you seek, and expectations that you measure, then it's expectations that once delivered upon will be expected. Like that's what's expected. And if it doesn't fall in, fall through, fall up, then it will be written. And I'm saying written as far as what I'm kind of doing, right? Like it's gonna get written into a process. And like I said, I'm just sharing this particular process with y'all because this is the physical process that I can share of what I do. I have gotten a better, like I said, I've gotten a better sense of title that makes it a little bit more understanding for me to explain. But when we break down processes with the materials, right, and the abundance of things. Like I said, I have good triggers and bad triggers because some triggers are good, right? Like to me, if someone says pull and you're shooting at a clay dove, I feel like that's a very good trigger because we're out there getting some good target practice. But other triggers, they're if they're set to red, leave them alone. Just leave them alone. But this is a representation, and that's one thing I will laugh or I get a little a chuckle, and I will say a little chuckle as far as a representative, because that's what's gonna happen, right? Someone's gonna come up to you and say, well, how do you know that? Well, I took that boxes of lemons, right? Or I took those boxes of lemons, and let's just be very clear in all things, right? It is not lemons, but it's not a euphemism in any other aspect that could be different in metaphor, right? No different in metaphor. And I'm saying that as far as like, well, what you have an abundance, a significant, and I'm saying significant in the idea that significant unit, because doing it for 12, right? Doing it for 12 is that's cute. That's cute, right? And while the 12 look, and while that 12 might be someone's every Sunday dinner, right? That 12 may be someone's um that 12 may be someone's Thanksgiving dinner. While that 12 may be the first hour of someone's day, that 12 may be the people that they host all year. It doesn't particularly matter. It's the getting together of people and processes for prosperity. I don't it's just it's not complicated. I'm just in the process of simplifying it in a way that I can show and share with you all how I handle 2 boxes of lemons just showing up at my door. And you know what? Like I had to ask someone the other day, and he gave me a good answer. He said, it depends, and it is a depends answer. And I'm saying when I say it depends, it comes from an opinion, right? In which you've heard that, in that people say, the opinion is like an asshole. Everyone has one. They all stink. Well, you know what? That's not true. In the idea that in the idea that that's not true, but also in the idea that you're making it sound unnecessary. No, your opinion is very necessary, just as your asshole. So, and I do mean that in the lovable person or animal or plant or vehicle. I know some vehicles out there. I got some people in my timeline, working on some really, really cool stuff as far as getting ready for the car shows this coming season. Like I said, I had a tear up moment today. About my car. I was like, that's what I wanted to do with him. I wanted to turn him into a garage queen. You know what I mean? And just bring him out for the photo shoots. Bring him out, and that's about it. But the seasons is starting to change. Just as the seasons change, so do you. And so when the seasons change and you change, it's not a problem. The problem comes down to the behaviors. And that's why I have to remind myself and remind others and express to others, right? In the bounds of doing these things, or in the bounds of explaining these things, or in the bounds of sharing these things with others, that you have to have an understanding that what you feel is valid, but what you may feel is not always true. However, what you feel, if it reflects in the way that you behave, that suffers consequences, or not necessarily suffers, but reaps, right? Reaps consequences, then you just have to be familiar, ready, and understanding of the consequences that come with those behaviors, not the feelings, right? And so then people start getting in their feelings. And I'm speaking, like I said, the people of three in one's head, the committee, right? Of one shoulder, two shoulder, head in front with a hamster for $1 million. Because it's the same thing we do every night, Pinky. Try to take over the world with a kindness to understand. You can't just treat people any old kind of way, okay? Someone just had 2 boxes of lemons show up to their door, and it has caused them a level of distress, right? And I'm not saying, like I said, I say it in jest, I say it tragically. But that's what I'm talking about, though. Just the two boxes of lemons showed up at their door, and and that's it. That it's not, it's not a matter of, well, where's the water and where's the sugar, right? It's a matter of, this two boxes of lemons showed up at my door, and it's gonna rot away because it doesn't fit, and it doesn't fit because I haven't changed with the seasons, and I haven't changed with the seasons because something has withered, and if something has withered, right, something needs to change. And so what changes can happen in one or two directions. It can either happen in growth or it can happen in decay. And I can tell you right now, decay is okay. Decay is part of it. In decay, there is still growth. Okay, and I'm not saying necessarily decay as in deterioration, right? When you deteriorate something or you contaminate something, that's on your own doing and choice, and that needs professional help, right? No amount of lemon analogies or metaphors is going to help you through something like that. So if if it's going to affect you in a way that is making destructive, self-destructive choices, seek professional help. However, if it's just a matter of a couple of lemons, right? If it's a couple of lemons, it's okay. It's not the end of the world. It could have been worse. You could have had, a flaming bag of shit at your door, and it made for the party. But guess what? If that's the manure, and I'm saying this to say, up, we found our first defect or our unacceptable defect. Uh, yeah, that coloring is not to standard. So only one. That's not too bad. And here's two. That's not too bad to think, right? Because that's the other thing too when it comes to the preservation of a good fruit. You got to be careful, right? Everything has a different shelf life. Everything has a different shelf life, and everything has a different season. So you know, get it on the shelf and off the shelf how you can, but don't let the shelf take care you. Don't let the shelf take you out of yourself. And I'm saying that don't let it. Because what's on the shelf is gonna stay on the shelf. It's there. It's sturdy. Okay, a great carpenter built it. I'm telling you, it's sturdy. That shelf is sturdy. So that's why if like I said, if you got to come to the point where the decay is starting to just not feel good, right? Starting to feel icky. Changing the seasons. It's changing the seasons. But there comes a point where you can't expect, right? You can't expect everyone to be on board, you know? You can't expect everyone to be on board, and it's not fair, without a level of commitment that allows everyone to feel safe, allowing everyone to feel safe in it. Because that's what happens, when as far as decay goes, when decay starts happening, a lot of people, and I say a lot of people because it'll, and I say this from a mindset or a standpoint of the markets, right? And I'm talking about the stock markets. Um, a lot of people, and I say people, and I'm talking about the people of Reddit, right? Or when I say the people, a crowd source. Um, in particular groups and different things that they start flipping out, right? And they start panicking. Panic is what I'm looking for. They start panicking, with a couple of dips and chips in their stock choices, and a lot of them, um, coming to a stress point, not to understand that it's part of it. You know what I mean? It's not. You're not gonna go up, like that's like that's when stuff becomes dangerous, and that's when stuff needs to have a step back and see, right? Because then you got to start pruning, because then you'll start finding a lot of space that may have withered away in that growth, right? I was able to get back into my closet and look at what's growing, look at what's growing and what needs to be redirected, because some plants have just, they didn't make it. And I'm saying that to say that the withering was such a shock, right? It was almost like overnight, right? Which is unfortunate, because that's illness in a way that was unidentifiable, or that you learned this season. Like, ask me next time I grow a bean plant. I'll have a better sense on it. It's practice, and it's practice to a more perfect, right? Not necessarily practice to be perfect, but a practice to a more perfect me. And it's nice to have me back again in a way that I recognize me. And right now I recognize what I would answer, how I would answer, and understand that no one would ask me. But if someone was, I'd be prepared with an answer. And you know what? To me, that's okay. That's the matter of, well, what do you do, right? Because a lot of people they'll say, what do you watch? What are you about, right? And depending on the nature, depending on the nature of where you are, where do you meet people, right? You meet people at the coffee shop, the library, the gym. And I'm saying to people, like, be honest with yourself as far as where you meet people, or maybe church, or any type of organization or club or hobby. You meet people, out and about. But when it comes to having conversation, right? Because at a certain point you gotta talk, right? At a certain point you have to see and have a conversation at a certain point. And so, do you do that over doing something? Okay, well, what is that doing you're doing, right? And depending on what people feel to be work or not work, like, this is work. And I'm not saying it's work that doesn't produce something of love, right? Like, I'm having fun for what it is right now, right? Science. I got it written down in my journals. I've gotten it written down for replication. I got it written down. I'm here talking it aloud, right? It's turning into a science project. And I'm not saying science project, but that's the only thing that makes that's the only thing that makes fooling around in science the difference, or that's the only thing that makes things different, is writing stuff down. And a lot of these people, you can't get them written down. And when I say getting them written down, I'm saying in a fashion that they understand. They thought I didn't do anything. You know what I mean? Like, this is what we do. We figure ways and means to build the next enterprise, because every enterprise is quite different. Geospatial enterprise running various developments. I was actually very happy that I was able to end the tenure there last October. And that one was definitely a learning. That was a learning. I learned a lot in what people look for. Again, in the suites and technologies that they want. I learned a lot in the process, or where people operate in a supply chain, especially in a network infrastructure. Like I said, I'm trying something a little different, and it's kind of cool. I saw another person on LinkedIn, just as a small tangent. I saw another. Uh, they call themselves Dr. T, and I have them on my LinkedIn feeds as of recently. But they recently invested in their education in culinary arts, and I kind of find that hilarious, right? And to think that I've had more than one person um have a strong opinion on that, in both great ways and good ways, right? But it was just kind of that one of those things where, like I said, when you start going back to the job board, right? You go back to the job board, or you go back to what it is that people do. Like I said, I'm looking back, and I've been looking back, and I expressed looking back earlier, that I had a teacher, go around. This was in college. I had a teacher go around and you know, what do you do? What do you do? What do you do? And everyone has something different, right? I go fishing and hunting with my brother and uncle, right? Or they go over there. Oh, well, I do ballroom dancing, yada yada yada. And I'm saying, this is someone going around a classroom surveying, right? And this is me. And like I said, this is how the story comes to be. What it is that one does. Spartans, tell that to your messenger, right? What it is someone does. And like I said, at the time, I haven't played Civilization in years. I haven't had the time, but at the time, I had the time to play a Civilization or a video game, right? That's basically just click it again, click it again. It's just a click, 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 but it's a strategic clicking of a game that's very, very, very addictive. And I'm saying that in like I say, in a healthy way, but even though there's no healthy way to say addiction, right? That's what makes it an addiction, not necessarily a craving or not necessarily a dependency. That's what makes it an addiction, is that it is a negative thing. But it's addictive, is what I want to say. Not necessarily I had an addiction, but it was a very addictive. To say, like, okay, I'll just I'll play two more games, and this game didn't cost any money or anything, so it wasn't necessarily a gambling problem. But what you're doing is it's still a time suck, right? It's still sucking time out of you with disregard for being productive if it didn't make you happy, right? If it didn't make you happy, or you feel disappointed or shame or whatever after that, yeah, then it turns into a problem, right? The fun stopped. The fun stopped when the sun came up, and now you're still wondering, like, oh snap, what did I do? But long story of that getting shorter, this teacher said, well, you're gonna want to find something else to do, because if you sit on the computer, like I said, this was a college class, so this is gaining of skills or gaining of next industry skills and exposures, um, to be in some of these corporate spaces. He told me, he's like, you're gonna want to find something else to do. And I said, and mind you, like I said, my mind is very open to all advice, good advice, great advice, and warnings, right? Heeds, when they come from a place of wanting to help me. So that's one of those things that you just kind of take and take it with a grain of understanding that, like that rang in pretty pretty loud for him to say that, right? Because that's what happens. And so I did. I was like, oh yeah, you know what? You do have to find other things to do, because sitting on the computer all day is not the way. I'm telling you right now. And I'm saying that on a health level to self and anyone who's listening and has been listening thus far, because we're probably gonna have a sudden shutout, right? My phone battery's dying, but it's okay. We're getting halfway through these boxes of lemons. There's not much more you can really see or do. In trying to get this graded down. If anything, I see that this particular container may be able to hold all these lemons. But we're making our way, though, because what this is going to do, like I said, the next step is going to be the sugaring. The sugaring! We're going to let this sit and marinate for 18 hours in proper refrigeration. And then once we get the other lemons and squared away, we're going to start squeezing some of these things and seeing what pops out with just a strict, without this marination process, because there's going to be enough lemons to do it, right? There's going to be enough, and if not enough, then I'm going to make it enough. But this is how we're celebrating the new coming in of a season, because like I said, we woke up, and it's funny how it works for me personally. It's funny how it works for me in that April had a very, 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 very strict incoming of, right, every day accounted for. And I can tell you, in a tragic fashion, we are not accounted for every day in April. That's okay, because in some days of rest came some days of revelation, and some days of redo. We had days of absolute recall, right? So it's getting better with it and about it. And like I said, and quite frankly, has really led up. If anything, every day is accounted for. Maybe not in the sense of the calendar, but maybe in the sense of um, development. Because like I said, things are arriving. Everything here, it only took about a week to get here. And I'm saying that to say, as far as the decisions and research and some of the stories that I come about, which is one reason why I have such a um mindset and idea to think that this is enough to speak on, because I this is the research I've been doing for the last week. You know what I mean? Like, it's the research I've been doing for the last week, and it's like I said, it's one of those things of, well, what are you up to? And I'm researching. Oh yeah, researching what? the consistent nature of getting lemonade made, right? Getting lemonade made because it's simple, right? And I'm very 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 strong on the stance of no, it is not as simple or simplistic as you make it out to be, right? And that's kind of where the industry, right, as far as where we're looking at in the data space. And this, like I said, this is more nerd out talk. So if you want to tune out, or if it tunes out now, it's a good place. But we're seeing, a lot of people, they think they can make lemonade, right? They think they can make lemonade with the materials and resources that they have without the understanding, right, or the bidding nature to actualize that in a fashion that is understandable at each level, right? Because check this out, right? And I'm saying this as far as the supply chain. You want someone to take upon focus and do this, right, in a consistent way, in a safe manner, and an efficient manner. And like I said, I'm speaking to self and the committee. But this is something that in a pipeline, right? In a pipeline, this particular individual may know all the tools. This particular individual may be able to take out of this box and be able to take out of this box or inspect this box. But that particular individual will have no power or say with what happens to this particular outcome, right? This outcome is it this is going to be a tomorrow problem, right? We'll talk to Tragic tomorrow on what's going on with this, and it's a matter of something that you don't necessarily see um from the front end, right? That's not something you see in the front end, and it's not something that you necessarily care to understand from the front end, depending on where you are, right? Depending on where you are in that supply chain, either as the um what's the word I'm looking for? Either as the vendor or in particularly the audience, right? The audience at hand. Like I said, there's more ideas to it, but right now we're gonna take the patient time to do this instead. And it's always been the patient time to do this instead. It was just a matter, like I said, for me, it's just a matter of no longer having to wait, right? It's not a matter of waiting; it's a matter of doing. It's not a matter of thinking; it's a matter of delegating, right? Even to a certain point, even to a certain point. But that delegation, what I tried to delegate wasn't meant to be delegated because what ended up being a what I thought was a conversation of delegation turned into a conversation of regulation, and I'm not a big regulator, and which is kind of the humorous part to it all for me too. Not a big regulator in the idea of qualifying normality, right? Qualifying normality is a feat that if you are to define normality, it's going to take you the same amount of time in order to do so, right? If I say, well, normally, well, what does normally? What's normally mean? And that's why sometimes it's a matter of on average. Okay, well, is it on average of effort or is it on average of environment? And I'm saying, like, what's it on the effort of? But like I said, these are the little things that when you understand, right? Because you've been there, you've done that, and drank the lemonade, right? Been there, done that, and drank the lemonade with the worm in it. Because look, tequila was on sale. No, but yeah, been there, done that, and drank the lemonade, not the Kool Aid, right? Not the Kool Aid, because the Kool Aid was the easy way out. Because you're listening to someone goofy tell you to drink Kool Aid. You know what I mean? Kool Aid doesn't grow out the ground, bro. You know what I mean? Like Kool Aid doesn't grow out the ground. Why would you take on now? Don't get me wrong. Kool Aid is it's candy. It's liquid candy. I get it. You know what I mean? That's what I'm saying when it comes to finding that sweet spot for the next step, the sugar step in all of this. That's gonna be interesting because the kind of sugars that I have are like natural raw grain sugars and this, that, and the other. But it's gonna be that dissolve point that, like I said, to me, right, like with good conscience, put in a serving of this lemonade. Like after a certain point, I'm just like, sir, this is a lemonade stand, right? Not a clinic. You know what I mean? Like not a sugar clinic. Like I can take you to the nearest sugar clinic, in the form of a candy store, which I could definitely see that being the name of a candy store as I sit here and make these character developments, because that's where these stories are going. Tragic is on the way. Like I said, it's just a matter of organizing and getting it down pat to being something consistent. I was having a meeting earlier today on another story. For I was having a meeting earlier today that just kind of made me go like, man, I just feel like I'm in reruns. Like how do we end up in reruns so fast as far as for this season, right? Like how do we end up in reruns? Like, well, you didn't make too many runs to begin with, so you're gonna have to rerun. Like the only thing more tiring than running is rerunning. And I'm saying that as far as like it's a task. And so, I had to look at them, had to look at this barstool neighbor of mine. That's where I meet anybody and everybody, right? I mean, I'm saying that on a tragic front, which I am kind of curious. We might be able to catch a show later while all this is, making good sugar and making good time. Give the phone a little time to charge, see what's out there. But anyway, but I was like, I feel like I'm in reruns. Did you read anything I wrote? Right? Sorry, I got a short make yourself laugh out of that. As far as did you read what I wrote? Right? You read what I, or you read what I wrote, right? And of course, it's a play on words, which is something else coming about in the meantime, in between time. But they looked at me straight in the face basically and said, "No, I didn't read it." And I'm like, "Okay, I gave you the pretty pictures, I gave you the words, I gave you the tight numbers. The least you could have done on an enterprise front is read the executive summary. Like if you don't want the whole report, then do not be upset with the outcomes, and do not be upset with don't be upset, and you're gonna be losing out. But I'll say losing out. You might be losing out the stress of reading that thing, but don't think you're gonna gather any gain by not, right? You don't gain by being poorly knowledgeable. You don't gain from being poorly knowledgeable. So as long as to your benefit to get it. Which I had that idea come out too, as far as when we start doing some of these terms and services updates and things. I said, you know what? There's enough people that someone just needs to read it. Someone needs to make a synopsis of any. They need to make a synopsis, and I say this as if it's not going to be someone like me. But make a synopsis of these terms and service updates and say, look, listen, we know you did not read this thing, but these are the three things that are changing for the greater good, and these are the three things that you might want to like pay attention to, because everyone reads their contract, everyone handles their contract differently, but no one cares about the contract, because that's the biggest thing, and that's one reason why we have contracts, right? We have contracts because people are affected by human nature, and so the human nature, of course, comes with the nifty beings of seasons. And so the season is the reason why I am here handling the lemons of my life and the lemons of my skills, but also, right, programming and developing an endeavor that recognizes the changing nature of those same people, right? Of those same people in the same nature. Because for whatever reason, meeting people is not worthy enough of a job. And I'm saying that to say like that's the new attitude in which I'm picking up in a it's not necessarily saturated, but it's people drank the Kool-Aid, and that's what I'm saying. People drank the Kool-Aid to think that data this, information that, AI this, artificial intelligence that. They drank the Kool-Aid, and they're just they're they're missing. They're missing. And when I say that, I'm talking about the complexities in the industry, right? As someone who you know navigates in similar spaces for IT and different things. No, no, no. We don't make Kool-Aid over here for data products. we make lemonade for data products. And if you can taste the lemonade we've been making, if you dig the lemonade, wait until you see the stand, right? Wait until you see the stand. It'll be okay. But you got to get through these things, right? You got to get through the cuts, bruises, and squeezes to know, right? To know, you got to get through the squeezes. Here, take this. What's this? Jesus. I'm telling you, as the seasons change, as you should too. You should be in growth. You should be in absolute growth to the best of your ability towards the sun. And like I said, and for me, that's where I kind of find myself looking at my indoor setup of plant cam. I'll get plant cam back up sometime soon. It's just a production to have that camera set up with a long wire, right? It's not a wireless setup; it's a wired setup, which is not too bad. But the cameras are just kind of outdated. Like I said, a lot of technology that I have is just needing a refresh. It's just time for refreshment, right? If you can bring people together in a refreshing way, why not do that? And so that's what we're here doing now. Going about the stages of learning that the lemons that the lemons that you're presenting, right, are gonna come with a question. So what now? What? So what now? What? They're already here. They've been here, right? They've been here. You should have been squeezing back then, right? But it's all good. With the changing of the season and the growth that we do see, right? With the growth that we do see with the survivors, right? The survivors, the ones who made it. Everyone's going through it, and I think that's a fact, right? Everyone is in a state of motion that kind of rises, right? Rises with the tide and lowers with the sun, because you know overnight it's a change. Overnight it just happened overnight. And the thing is, if Rome was built overnight, so many things would make sense. If, and this is the same things that Spartan told told opposition. The laconic phrase is if, right? If you have to come over here. If you come over here, because that word means nothing in line of fear, right? That word means nothing in line of fear. The laconic phrase, like I said, going back to those Spartans, man, you gotta make sure. You gotta make sure that who you giving the message of the change of seasons to. You gotta make sure if they are Spartans, they will kick you. You know what I mean? They will kick you in a hole. Shoot, that's probably what they need to do. What I need to do, doggone short of him falling into that pit, because they kicked everybody. Like I said, I think they sent one guy back. I have to rewatch the movie. I think they sent one guy back with basically a jug of water and was like, "Now you go tell your foolish leader who thought that it was okay. Go tell them that they thought that this message was okay. Of Cass's belly, And I'm not saying literal cast his belly. I'm like I said, I'm getting a kick out of being able to use that word in casual sense. Because one part of the lemons, right? One part of the lemons is getting a knowledge of lemons, right? Because if you've never seen a lemon before, or you've never seen a dragon fruit before, or if you've never seen this particular fruit before, how do you go about getting it prepared for this particular confectionery or this particular outcome, right? How do you prepare this particular material? And like I said, when it comes to being able to make a comparison in right or a comparison in materials that's tangible for other people to recognize as a representative of this process or representative of this industrial complex, that's that's the kind of that's the kind of sour you got to remember, right? That's the kind of sour you got to remember um, when delivering something good, because we're gonna make some good lemonade. I'm excited. I really am, man. Like I said, for me, I had to tell someone the other day. Um, basically gave me an indicator of myself. They said you go from dry humor to slapstick, at a certain point. And I said, oh yeah, really? They're like, oh yeah, your style change up, as far as not necessarily change up, but your style, you know, has a fluid that allows it to kind of roll with the environment. And if the environment is more of a slapstick style than dry style, because I love a good dry humor. Oh man, a good dry humor beats anything good humor can come out with, which is the one thing that kind of makes me think about when I think about these changing seasons is ice cream and lemonade. Ice cream and lemonade, man. Like, how do you beat ice cream and lemonade? It's just the most wonderful time of the year. Summer is not for the bummer. And when you have a bum some, you know what I mean? When you have a bum some, and I'm talking about as far as like a bummer summer, man, it'll stay with you. It will stay with you. When I say you, I mean me. It'll make you cry. You be like, dang, that summer sucked. You know what I mean? Like that's not cool. Like I said, any other season, I don't necessarily remember sucking in a way that summer. Like you know what I mean? Like I don't think to myself, oh, that was a bad fall. I kind of expect fall to fall because fall's fall, right? But I feel like summer is when you're done simmering, right? You're gonna see what the summary is in the summer as far as the outcomes, because it's too hot for anything to not necessarily grow, but it's productive decay in that heat, because things are alive and well, because they when things start heating up, things start catching that fire. Oh man, and I say summer because when you go to Australia, it's winter, so it's just a matter of what hemisphere. When you start having too many problems with the Aussies, you might want to look at the trillia. And like, that's a trillia. The tail of a kangaroo. And it's like, are you sure? No, I'm just making stuff up. But it's my imagination. Welcome to it. That's the funny stuff. And that's what I'm saying. When you're not able to actually thrive in certain common spaces or shared spaces that allow people to faucet, a different you kind of just, or I kind of just personally, I kind of get a chuckle because they love keeping an octopus in the jar. Cannot keep the octopus in the jar, baby. It will get out. There's a reason why I told you to put the octopus in this container. You know what I mean? As far as there's a reason why, because an octopus will get out of that jar. He knows he is about to get cooked. Why do you think he's telling his lobster buddies over here what the deal is? I'm telling you. I know people are like, well, dang, if it's that intelligent, should we really be eating it? You know, that's a very, very good question. I mean, I think if something can say my name, I won't eat it. But if it can't say my name, then or can't call me by name. And the funny thing is, I will say, it's funny to think that your dog does have a bark for you, right? Different barks of like, hey. and in different growls of I'm talking to you, right? Or different. Oh yeah, right there. There's a spot. you know. But no, exactly. So I know my dog can say my name. They can look. Dogs know things, and I'm saying that as far as they talk. Dogs talk. So I haven't had a conversation with an octopus to know if it talks or not. Which kind of reminds me to think that the Kraken. I was just asking about the Kraken the other day, as far as the Seattle Kraken, the hockey team. I need to see what their stats and stuff look like because I know that we are in playoffs right now. What's today? Today is Saturday, so we might be able to catch a rerun of a game maybe because we won the first one. Go Knights, go! Won the first one against them doggone Dally Stars. So I definitely say full, but this would definitely be better with a This would be better with the protection or the precision of a spoon. As I'm sitting here, like I said, going off in tangents, I'm getting to the last little bits, and like I said, my phone's dying, so we're gonna get it charged up, and just have a complete. It's gonna shut off, so it's gonna have soprano ending, but we're gonna have a clean ending with getting the rest of this zest into this bowl, and prepped up for a sugar bath or a marinade in sugar overnight in the fridge, so that basically it becomes not necessarily Jolly Ranchers, but I want to see what the end. Like I said, I can't remember the word it is, but it's basically getting the sugar dissolves and combines the lemons that allow it to make that sweetness, especially without the rinds, right? But then being able to produce that juice from the squeeze. And like I said, sometimes some of these lemons I'd be fighting for the last little bit of skin. And it's like, come on, Homer. Homer, yes, because the lemon is yellow. Go! Which reminds me, I haven't caught up on the Simpsons latest and greatest episodes, but I have I've caught up on some of the South Park material, and South Park just doesn't hit me the same way. It doesn't hit me in the same way. I mean, I totally get the humor. I totally do. It just doesn't gather my attention, even though some of the characters and some of the plot lines. But I'm starting to see that they're getting to the point where they're making the series, they're making series of plot lines, and I think that's just a changing nature of streaming too, versus television. Being able to have part one and part two and yada yada yada, rather than try to resolve it in 30 minutes, right? You resolve funny things in 30 minutes, right? Stories, you take the time. Ooh, look at there. My hand definitely said the better way to hold that or have that is not to grip it, because then you'll have your hand stuck. You know what I mean? Or you'll have it stuck in place, which is, like I said, part of the occupational hazards that people kind of say, like, oh well, of course. I'm like, no, not of course. Like, if you can save that from happening to somebody, that they're having their hand ache, from doing this or having the expectation of doing this to make it work or make it to work or it be their work. No. Like, how about we have something different, or start incorporating something that allows it to not be so harmful? How about that? You know, and it just goes on deaf ears. And so, like I said, for me, that's one of those qualities of ethics that you have to think about when you present these solutions, right? Um, of a hard task or a task that comes with a scale that maybe beyond, right? Maybe beyond one person that requires a team. The A team, the A team, going for the L. Don't you mean the W? Or going for the win? Yeah, lemons for the win. A little bite of sound for you, a little bite of sound. Because when you get the sound bite, guess what? Not no chicken butt. They don't ever go on sale. But you know why the chicken didn't cross the street? Because there was beef on the other side. That's why. That's why that chicken didn't cross that street. That chicken didn't cross that street because there's beef on the other side. You're telling me you're a beef dealer? Yeah, man. Like we get on the radio and we just slam out that beef, and then we get over it. And that's what you would call beef. Yeah. So you just start drama. No, beef, man. Beef is a media term. I'm just laughing at how that I saw. Like I said, I'm watching one recent show I'm watching on MTV. As like I said, getting back into popular culture or binging into popular culture to see where the thermostat is on society. There's this recent one that the one of the hosts has a degree, I think from Stanford, for social media, basically a degree of social media. I found that to be very very interesting, but I'm very curious as to what his dissertation and what his I'm curious. I'm curious to see what his pedigree involved or what it included to validate and qualify. You know what I mean? And like I said, I say that with respect, not as a well, who do they think they are, right? Like asking someone what they know is not a rude question. Is asking someone what they know is not a rude question. It's not a rude question. Now, granted, how you go about asking it, right? Will definitely determine how people interpret and take it on. But for the sake of it being an understanding of skill, right, an understanding of um, what's to come or what's coming down the pipeline as far as education and skills necessary in the world, this one just happened to catch my attention. So, but it was based on yet more digitally based relationships. Oh, we're almost there. We're almost there. It's a task, and I think no, we have enough to hit the barrels, right? Let's see if we can make it with our reciprocating strategy. Because sometimes it's even the motion. Ugh, can't even lie though. Any excuse to get some different tools, new tools to build other things. That's also exciting. Like I expect that. Like if a particular shop that I go to like doesn't even flirt with new tools or new techniques or better ways of doing things. I just don't even bother with that shop. They're not thinking in a innovative space, or they're not thinking in a way or a fashion that kind of denotes like, hey, yeah, we're interested in doing things in an approved fashion or even in a different fashion, because sometimes it's not always and improve, or excuse me, different is not always improved, right? Some things can be made worse with a matter of change management. Without If the change management doesn't have support behind it, then it's going to just be a bad change, right? And I remember that presentation, speaking of Ford, how we entered this whole thing on a Ford mentality of going from an explorer to a focus. um that was one of the biggest things they had driving up there in Detroit, which I see you, Detroit making the comeback. I've always asked which who's going to come back first, whether it be Detroit or New Orleans, and by the looks of it, Detroit looked like they try to make their industrial comeback for the incoming, right, the incoming of the 30s. Because like I said, when we start looking, nothing in history is going to tell you what happens in the future. So when you study history, you got to take it for the salt that is in the sea, not the salt that's in your eye, right? And when I say the salt that's been in the sea, you know, the truths that are the truths that are the truths at the bottom of the sea, right? The bottom of the sea are the truths of that salt. And guess what? It's not necessarily something that you can dictate or control. So nothing in the future is going to give you the qualified understanding. And I'm saying that this is my assertion as a facilitator, right? As a digital facilitator or an experienced analytics engineer. You nothing in the past, right? Like I said, things change, experience change, environments change. The definition of excellence doesn't necessarily change, but the means do, right? Sometimes that highway has to shut down so that we can build the overpass. Sometimes that particular road needs to just take a pause because we need to make sure that we have the sewage lines in place. Like it's about infrastructure, and when you're done on that point of the infrastructure, you can always come back to it. It's not something um that is in stone, right? Because it's not built in tradition yet, right? That's when you start building traditions and you start building the dates for it. Like let's see if something I even told someone yesterday too. I said, when people have you wasting your time because you allow it to happen, because you allow it to happen when they waste your time, right? You gotta look at the consequences, and I will say for me, a lot of the consequences only resulted in one holiday. One holiday too much, and enough holidays to make it worth, right? To make it a holy, like what has happened. But one holiday is not that bad to have learned and understood. That's not the way that sentence is going to go. But to learn and understand, like I said, the relationships of the season. And I even, like I said, I even mean this on the tech scale. A lot of the tech stuff, or a lot of tech space is relationship based nowadays. A lot of it, like I said, people are running to the mill, right? Running to the the diploma mill to get their new shiny sticker saying that they can do data work or gather intelligence and things of that nature. And I'm talking about as a commodity, not necessarily a trait of a person. Not but they're reaching out to go say, oh, I can do this, right? And I'm like, okay, well, you're a mechanic. You said that you're a master mechanic, and if not a master mechanic, that means you're a junior mechanic, and if you're not a junior mechanic, you're an apprentice mechanic, right? But I would even suspect that my apprentice mechanic who has been with me for the last 6 months and has had the resources and the time and the materials and the exposures and the educators and the playground, the volume to learn how to change a tire, learn how to change oil, and learn how to fill the fluids of the windshield wiper. As an apprentice mechanic, those are the three things that when it's time for test day to go from apprentice one to apprentice two, um, change a tire, change the oil, and change the windshield wiper fluid on any vehicle that's given to you. And if you've never seen that vehicle before, that there's a level of competence, there's a level of understanding, there's a level of common sense, right? Or critical thinking that allows you to go, oh, okay, well, usually this is what this looks like, or usually this is what this looks like, knowing that the standard approves that line of thinking. The standard approves of it, depending on the vehicle, right? Which is one reason why people love having their custom vehicles or their expensive makes and models because it makes it, a specialty item. But that's why I'm choosing this particular specialty item because this is what just showed up at my door that one fine day and it said, what are you going to do about it now? What are you going to do about it now? And people who know me best, I love you. I love you back. I love you. I love you back. Because a lot of people who are a little closer to this, they know. They're like, oh, Lord, here she go. Oh, Lord, back up. Here she go. She is, you know, she's in motion. And, and the motion just stays even kill. Because we know what the motion could look like. Shoot. The motion could look like rockets. Look, she could want rockets. We just settle on the lemons, man. As far as the budget, do you spend $2 million on lemons, or do you spend $2 million on a rocket fin? Hmm. Do I spend $2 million in lemons or do I spend $2 million on a rocket fin? Right? And like I said, you look at it from a point of view of value. If the $2 million of lemons are ready here and now, you know what? Let's get people together. Let's party. That rocket fin, let's get together and talk about that rocket fan, or let's get this $2 million worth of lemonade to raise the money to not only have enough money to get the rocket fan, but to complete the rocket. And guess how we did it? Meeting up for $2 million worth of lemonade, because that's what showed up was 2 boxes of lemons. I know one thing, this citrus, it's getting me.